The 35 affirmative actions and the drive for gender equality in Nigeria has been on the front burner of national discourse. Even before now, there has been signs that the women folks in Nigeria has been subjugated to what is seen to be the man's world. However, though, there is still some push, and the driving force is still on the front burner of the national discourse. Now, in recent times, the feud between Senator Natasha and the Senate President Akpabio has been on the front burner of a global discourse. Now, it has gone to the international parliamentary, and that indeed has put a spotlight on the Nigerian Senate. Hello, dear. It's a pleasure to have you once again join us on Political Affairs on Karma TV. My name is Chris Jacobs, and I've been joined by Honorable Alexia Fakuta Naira. She is a seasoned politician and as well a woman activist, and she joins me now to further this conversation. Hello, dear. It's a pleasure to have you once again on Political Affairs.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
First of all, I'd like to start by saying congratulations, even the belatedly International Women's Day.
Thank you.
How do you feel about that?
Well, the International Women's Day this year, we celebrate some achievement of women in the state, though with the issues we are facing, especially at the national level, we were not celebrating it in the spirit we used to celebrate in.
Why? And what could have been the reason?
Thank God that, injury to one is injury to all.
Okay.
Women are crying all over with what is happening at the national level. It's not easy for us.
So you aligned that skeletal celebration to what has happened to one of you, talking about Senator Natasha Udwana.
Yes, what happened to her actually was disheartening, and it broke down the spirit of the celebration of International Women's Day. In fact, some organizations did not even celebrate the day because of what happened.
But how would you react to that incident that took place on the floor of the House? I think on the 6th of March, isn't it? That took place on the floor of the House. The back and forth between the Senate President, Senator Akpabio, and Senator Natasha Udwana.
Things like that, it's not the first time we see a confrontation on the Senate floor like that. But what happened that day was highly impunitive. It's not just about the issue of this is your seat, this is not your seat. But what was the most heartbreaking moment in all that happened was when they were pronouncing the outcome of the ethics committee. It hit me in the heart like, this is my country. This is the country I'm proud of. But how can I even raise my head to look the next generation and tell them this is what happened during my time?
You contested for the office you contested for the National House of Reps, as a House of Rep member in the last general election, isn't it?
Yes.
And the support base actually was massive. But on the other hand, how would you describe your experience as a woman and as a politician, as a Jen who was vying for House of Representative? How was the support base like? Did you feel a little bit subjugated or such change, by the male counterpart as regard to the pursuance of this very call?
Sometimes we, the political candidates, we don't like to show out our vulnerability. We tend to present ourselves as strong people that are resilient. But the truth is, it's hard out there as a woman. There are some places that they will shut you down. Today we are talking about Senator Natasha Udwana. The senator's performance, what we are admiring about her is her courage, her boldness, and her strength to face what is happening. There are so many, almost 99% of female politicians are facing those harassment, they are facing those insults, they are facing the deprivation, but they don't have the boldness. They don't have the courage to talk about it, including myself. Because when you talk about it, you will be shut down. Imagine, see what is happening to Natasha clearly. So there are so many women that are in the same position, but they are afraid.
Okay, let's assume some of the women are afraid to speak forth or to speak up. But talk to me about the support base that women have for their fellow women. I understand that if a few of the senators on the floor of the House, like Senator Ireti Kingibe and a few of the senators were mute, they kept mum as regard to, throwing their weight behind their fellow female senator Natasha, but they kept mum and they kept mute. How would you describe this, kind of, should you say, broad day betrayal, or just for the fear of the uncertainty? These female senators couldn't even voice that and stand for their own.
You see, it's not even just keeping quiet.
Mm.
It's the fact that some women even go ahead to defend the Senate president. The issue here is fear is part of it. And some women, with the nature of the society and the mindset of how they are brought up and how they see the society, they are suffering from like Stockholm syndrome.
Mm. The succumb.
Where you start liking even your oppressor.
Yeah, but except otherwise, if you don't understand the reason why you're there, as a matter of fact, they were not elected by Senate president, they were not elected by the floor of the Senate, but rather they were elected by the members of their constituency. And that's why there is an issue out on ground saying you cannot, as a matter of fact, suspend a serving senator for more than 2 weeks.
So those impunitive action is what they are afraid of. Even Senator Ireti Kingibe herself, she was shut down when she said her budget in the FCT was parted without her own knowledge. She was sent out of the Senate. So she was once deprived and shut down. So it's not the first time these things are happening. You remember even Her Excellency, our First Lady, Remi Tinubu, what happened between her and Senator Dino Malai.
Yeah.
These things are happening and we keep quiet. We just take it as nothing. To me, this issue is not just about the Senate. It's not about following the rules. But if at the National Assembly, the engine room of our politics, where our policies, our laws are coming, and somebody will be shut down for making such allegation, what more of a common man on the street? What more of a daughter of nobody? Who will help her? Who will speak for her?
Now, I have an issue with the 35 affirmative action that Nigerian women have been clamoring for. By this, with what we have seen in recent times, would you say, because I want to believe that it is not just happening in the political scene, in the political atmosphere, because some will say maybe because they are politicians, but of course, a woman must not necessarily be a politician, but there are government appointees where we've seen them being subjugated and their voice have been clamped upon. How would you describe, this quest for the 35 affirmative actions? Has Nigerian woman gotten to that point at which we will say boldly that she has gotten the affirmation?
This 35 we are talking about is even a starting point. How many of the population constitute women? How can you silence half of the population in decision making and expect progress? Don't you think maybe part of our problem is the fact that women are marginalized, they are not involved? Their problems are not spoken about. Nobody brings issues related to women. And also, there are women with potential, but they are shut down. There are so many places you say you are a woman. Let me tell you something. This Natasha issue, let's assume she's even a single woman, she's not married. Even inside Senate, some people that are representing millions of Nigerians calling her names for speaking her voice.
All right. I would like you to ponder on this, and of course, I know that we won't return from this short time, and it will still build upon this. However, though, the matter has gone international now, isn't it? At international parliament. What does that mean? What does that speak of the Nigerian Senate? Because, as a matter of fact, whether you like it or not, you heard what she said. That first of all, she is a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Natasha, and the name Nigeria is mentioned, of course, in New York. And what does that speak to the Senate?
It shows that the hallowed chamber is not hallowed, and there's dishonorability in honorable.
All right, just hold your catch up break there. We'll be back in a short while so that you can also build on this very punchline that you've given. All right, you're watching Political Affairs on Camera TV. We'll take a short break now. We'll be back in a moment. Join us again. Lastly, you're still there. We have just joined us. You're watching Political Affairs on Kama TV. I've been speaking with Honorable Alexia Naiwa Fakuta. She's a seasoned politician and a woman activist. And of course, she has been furthering the conversation as regard to the ongoing feud between distinguished Senator Natasha and the Senate President Akpabio Feud. Now, before the break, I asked you a very critical question about what does this mean to Senate before the global world. You know, Natasha has already presented, expressed her displeasure and a petition to the international community. So what does this mean? Do you think there's going to be a dent on Nigerian Senate?
You know, even the day she presented the petition, I think there were foreigners at the National Assembly.
Yeah, that very day on the 6th.
And they all watch what happens. This issue is, it doesn't present us well. It doesn't speak out well for the Senate. And secondly, what are the issues? How can somebody that is abusing you report the person, and the person will be the judge and jury over the matter? It doesn't make sense.
Ordinarily, Senate President Akpabio should have stepped down. And that is what happens in developed climes. But have you ever seen where someone occupying a public office in Nigeria decided to step down, where there is an allegation leveled against the person and investigation is ongoing?
It's always difficult. It's always difficult to see such, and this is why we are still where we are. Our democracy is always shocking.
And maybe I will just fancy, or tickle your fancy a little bit. I think the only person I could recall in Nigeria who decided to step down when there was a woman, and Kemi Adeosun, former Minister for Finance. And that's not to say her own was based on corruption or any. It has to do with principle. And being a UK trained financial expert, and of course, what is obtainable in developed climes is that if there is an investigation going on, you should step aside. And hers was about her NYC certificate.
Yes.
By at large. Senate President should have stepped down.
He would have stepped down and allowed the investigation to go on. And I don't know the rule that said, it's petition. It's me that's offended. I'm the one that knows the nature of my problem. Why should somebody need to go and report on my behalf? I don't know where that rule or law come from, but it doesn't make sense.
Maybe it is a rule in the Senate.
And let me ask you something.
Please do.
This issue is not about it's not about Natasha versus Akpabio. It's about what has been going on in the Senate. Natasha is not the first person to be Senator Natasha. Sorry, is not the first person to be suspended. But the issue is, have there been any Senate or House of Rep member that has been suspended due to their conduct outside the Senate, or until when they speak out for injustice, or they speak for the masses? Because all this suspension has never been about maybe their conduct outside, or their corrupt practices, or what they did wrong outside the Senate. It's always about them seeking for justice in the Senate or speaking for the masses. If you observe, it has been the pattern. So the Senate is operating like a group. Like I don't even know how to describe it.
But you had Senator Natasha say when she was leaving the floor of the House, to say this injustice cannot be sustained.
Of course, she was voted by her senatorial zone. How can you silence the voice of millions of people just because somebody, and it's not even her fault, but you silence their voice through her. They voted her to go and speak for them.
And another issue that has generated a lot of controversy again, regarding this very feud between Natasha and Akpabio is the fact that the Committee for Code and Ethics didn't really deal with the issue. The issue, the outcome of their judgment, was predicated on the faulted seats of Natasha instead of dealing with the sexual accusation, or the sexual allegation rather, against Senator Akpabio. What does that mean? What does that speak to you as a woman? Where what you cried for, what you cried about, isn't what actually led to your, suspension.
The ethics committee, what they decided was highly impunitive. Even the Senate president himself, when he was a senator, and then the Senate president was Senator Bukola Saraki.
Absolutely.
They had crash on the seating arrangement too.
Yeah.
He was not suspended. How can you suspend the whole constituency? You stop her own salary, you withdraw her own security. Oh, please, that's harassment of the highest order. What they just did was highly impunitive. That's why what they did to Natasha is not just about Senator Natasha. It's about only 4 female senators at the National Assembly, and they have silent one, remain 3.
And do you think if we had more than 3 female senators on, the floor of the National Assembly, wouldn't have seen such kind of issues of such emanating again?
But we look back, he still has it. In the days where we had like 9 female senators, you check the performances. He still has it. And we need more. Anytime women are involved, things changes. Because there is collective responsibility and ideas are joined together.
Ideas are joined together collectively. But there is still the stereotype about gender equality, and of course, tradition, religion, as well, has brought us backwards in such a time as this. For instance, now, if we bring back the conversation to Adamawa State's House of Assembly, you agree with me that we only have 1 female representative who is from Demsa, and the rest of them are male counterpart. What has the stereotype done to the women folks, in Nigeria, particularly those who are venturing into politics, societal definition, and so on?
We are seeing it playing out, even with the sitting senator. Imagine someone that is not sitting senator, or someone that just aspires to be in politics. When she dare speaks, they will go personal, professional, even they will go out. Everything about her, they will go after her. This is why so many women are silent. Because if you try, you regret why you start in the first place. You don't have the power, you don't have the resources, you don't have people to stand for you.
Are Nigerian women discouraged as a result of these happenings?
They are not just discouraged, but they are threatened. There's a difference between discouragement and threat. This is threat. You like, my God, if senator like this can be shut down, can send away, can be insulted. Even at the National Assembly, you hear some people on the ground saying, Ashao, what of me that is daughter of nobody? Nobody is going to listen to me. They will destroy me. So I'm afraid of politics. So I had so many young girls telling me this. Until this politics you people are doing me, I can't. I'm afraid. The way, so they are scaring them away.
But before now, such kind of baseless and flavorous allegation and misperception by the society over a woman, female politicians, is predominantly in the north. We don't get to see that, so much happening in either southwestern part of the country or southeastern part of the country, but it's predominantly in the north here. Do you think there is more to do in order to absorb this, kind of or reduce the preponderantness of such kind of attitude in the northern part of Nigeria?
See, these things start from education.
Mm-hmm.
And people need to differentiate between gender and sex. Because so many times, often, people describe things that has to do with sex, they describe it in gender. Sex is the biological differences between you and I.
Mm-hmm.
You are a man, I'm a woman. I have some physical part that you don't have. That is sex. That is biology, the biological differences. I menstruate, you don't. That's the biological differences. But when it comes to gender differences, these are the difference between man and woman based on the societal norms, based on the societal view, cultural norms, and just social perception. For example, somebody can say driving truck is for men, not for women. That is just your perception, but there are so many women that can drive.
Okay.
So these are just perceptions, and there need to be an education out there for people to understand. When we talk about gender equality, it's not about women should get involved. It's about balancing between men and women. Gender equality may favor men too. There are some things where maybe people will only consider issues that concern women and leave men. But when they say gender equality, it's about putting the balances between issues that concern both men and women for solution. So without the education out there, our people will always take these biological differences to be gender issue, and it's not.
They'll say she is a woman. All right, now we'll take a short break. Also, when we return, I would like you to ponder on this. A family is the nucleus of a society, and if you don't get it right in the family, of course, we'll never get it right in the society. Perhaps this kind of definition, this kind of perception that has been perverted in the society might have started in the family. Where you see parents will prefer the male folks, to go to school, and then the daughters will say, okay, they're only right for marriage, for kitchen, and then marry. We'll talk to that more after this time. I'll just catch a break. All right, you're watching Political Affairs on Camera TV. We'll take a short break. We'll be back in a moment. Don't go away. You're welcome back, and you're watching Political Affairs on Kama TV. I've been speaking with Honorable Alexia Naiwa, and our focus of this conversation today is the feud between distinguished Senator Natasha and the Senate President Akpabio. Now, before the break, I asked you the role family plays in molding the perception of the society as to who a woman is and what she's supposed to do and what not. However, some families, as a matter of fact, if you have both parents who are learned, they give equal opportunities to their male children as well as the female. But how has family, molded this kind of perception that we see that seem to be a sledgehammer on female politicians? The names they call female politicians when they venture into politicking.
They say charity begins at home. It's actually this foundation starts from the family level. What do you tell your daughter? What do you tell your boys? What do you teach them? I know some home where they will say domestic work is for girls. Then the boys are meant to eat food and go to school, as you said there. But this is not how it's supposed to be. It's also the skill of life. Teach them. As a parent, it's not just the financial responsibility that you have to give. You also have moral responsibility. You have to lead by example. Teach these boys to respect women.
That's correct.
And how you respect their mother matters too. Like a boy that grow up seeing how his dad disrespects the mother, he will always believe that is the right way to deal with the woman. And secondly, again, how you treat your daughters around the boys matters too. Because this is what we are saying playing out on the larger scale. If there is respect, there is value, there's humanity in anybody, some of these things will not even start to begin with. It will not even start in the first place. So the family's responsibility is to instill that value of humanity, of respect, of love towards one another, regardless of the person's gender.
But you were in this country when the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, was granted an interview to an international media outfit, and he was asked about his wife. He said, well, she belonged to the kitchen and to the other room. Now, if such kind of statement is coming from someone who is a figure, how do you think that will translate to other persons who have already conditioned their mind in this regard?
The number one citizen says so, and some people will follow the lead. This is what we are facing even today. They say leadership by example. If you are saying your wife belongs to your kitchen or the other room, then the other people that their wife will not dare talk to. So these are leadership by example. You have to show exemplary life of how it should be. Leadership is not just about being in that office. It's not about people bowing to you. You have responsibility to carry out.
All right. Before I let you out of the studio today, what lesson? I'm going to ask you two edged sort question now. What lesson should Nigerian women, not just politicians, learn, from this fracas between Natasha and Akpabio? And expectedly, what do you envisage the outcome of this feud will be like?
This thing that happened shows there is need for sensitization, there is need for reforms. Some of our laws, there's need for serious reform in our laws. We need that.
Are you talking about the law of the Senate or the Constitution?
The Constitution itself, there's need for changes around our Constitution. And even the Senate rules too, it has to change. And for women, we have to go on aggressive sensitization. This is not just sensitizing fellow women, but the men too. Because if you gather women and tell them, no, you're right, this is how it is, you also need the male accountable. That's why we say gender issue is not about women alone. But the men have to know too what it means for things to be that way. So we have to do sensitization to educate each other about how this thing works, so that we will all progress as a nation. Because if we continue in this current situation, we are not going nowhere. Why are we complaining? Every season is always like almost getting worse.
All right, and thank you so very much. There's no better way to end this conversation than now. Thank you so very much, Honorable Alexia Naiwa, for finding time to come on the show. It's been pretty good and very engaging, talking with you today. Looking forward to having more of such conversations with you again.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And of course, we're still calling on the men to support the women out there so that justice will prevail. Well, this way we have come to the end of the conversation today. We're dropping the anchor on the show today. Thank you so very much for being with us from start to finish. Join us again same time, same station as we come with a fresh edition of the program. Until then, stay safe. My name is Chris Jacobs. God bless Nigeria.